It was an early morning in Washington, D.C. The White House press room was busy. Reporters filled the room, talking quietly and checking their notes. The lights were bright, and the room felt cold and plain. Everyone was waiting for something big to happen. The air was filled with whispers and quiet jokes about the new press secretary. Some reporters wondered if she would last a long time. Others joked about the tough questions she might face. Then, the door opened and in walked Karoline Leavitt. She moved calmly and confidently. It was clear she was ready for a tough day ahead. The room became quiet. All eyes turned to her. She took the stage and looked around. There was no fear in her eyes, only determination. Karoline started her talk by saying that the new press secretary was ready to answer hard questions. She promised to challenge the ideas of some Democratic leaders, especially those who spoke about violence. She said that the president had given her a clear mission: to fight against dangerous words and ideas. Her voice was calm but strong, and every person in the room could sense that she meant business. As she spoke, one reporter from a well-known news channel said something like, "Are we ready to see a fight between the leaders?" Karoline smiled and said, "I promise you, today you are going to see some big truths. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe." The next part of the day was about immigration. A reporter asked if the government was really arresting too many people and then letting them go with only a simple device to track them. Karoline explained that, according to the latest numbers, a very small number of those arrested had been released. She said that these releases happened only for a few clear reasons. Sometimes there was no room in detention centers, sometimes the person was very sick, and sometimes it was because of legal reasons. She made it clear that the government was doing its job carefully and with real numbers. Her tone was matter-of-fact, like she was explaining simple math to everyone. After discussing immigration, the conversation moved to another hot topic: Gaza. A reporter asked how the United States would handle the situation there. Karoline took a deep breath and explained that President Trump's idea was to rebuild Gaza. However, this would not mean sending American soldiers or spending taxpayer money for nation building. Instead, the plan was to work with local leaders. She explained that meetings were already set up with leaders from Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. These talks, she said, were meant to bring real peace and help rebuild the area without burdening American taxpayers. Her explanation was clear and steady, and even when the room grew quiet in shock, Karoline stayed calm. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Next, the questions turned to another domestic issue. A reporter asked about sports, specifically if a man who identifies as a woman should be allowed to compete in women's sports. Karoline did not hesitate. She said in very simple words that there are only two sexes, male and female. Her answer was short and to the point. The room was silent for a moment, and then some people began to write down her words. She did not change her mind or add extra details. Her words were meant to be clear and final. Then, the discussion moved to government spending. A reporter asked about how some media outlets were getting money from the government. Karoline explained that there was a program that paid for subscriptions to certain media outlets, and that this money was coming from American taxpayers. She was clear that the current administration was looking at every single dollar spent. If something did not help the American people, the money would not be used. She even mentioned a few examples of big sums that were being spent, such as millions of dollars for meetings and hundreds of millions on things like coffee cups. Her tone was both serious and a little bit challenging, as she implied that those spending money without care did not really have America's best interests at heart. Not long after, another topic came up: Elon Musk. A reporter asked if Elon Musk was working with the government for money. Karoline smiled. She explained that Elon Musk is the richest man on Earth. He does not need extra money from the government, and he is only interested in big goals, like making America more efficient and even colonizing Mars someday. She said that if someone questions his motives, they should remember that he follows every law. His actions, she explained, were meant to help cut waste in government spending. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. The next question was about trade and tariffs. A reporter wondered if tariffs, taxes on imported goods, were good for America. Karoline explained that tariffs are like a tool. In the past, before the income tax was around, America did well on tariffs. Now, she said, tariffs are used as a way to protect American jobs and industries. She made a joke about how much of your paycheck you would give to the government if you were forced to pay even more taxes. The room broke into soft laughter at her joke. Even when a reporter tried to make a serious point, Karoline's friendly tone turned the question into a simple conversation about protecting American interests. Then came a very bold idea that many did not expect: the possibility of eliminating the federal income tax. A reporter asked if removing the income tax would be a good idea. Karoline said that if President Trump could remove the income tax, it would be a historic change. She said that this idea might make him one of the greatest leaders ever. The room fell silent, as the idea was almost too big to believe. Her simple words and steady tone made the impossible seem possible. Soon, the conversation turned back to foreign policy, especially about Gaza. Some reporters were still unsure about the president's plan. Karoline was ready to clear the air. She explained that rebuilding Gaza would not be a burden on American taxpayers. Instead, it was a chance to make a deal with local leaders in the Middle East. She mentioned again the names of the leaders she was in talks with, showing that there were already steps being taken. Her message was that this was not a quick or rash decision. It was part of a long-term plan for peace and stability in the region. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. In the middle of all these serious topics, the atmosphere in the room was always mixed. Reporters wrote notes and exchanged glances. Some were shocked by the bold ideas, and some were ready with more questions. But Karoline continued her talk with clear, simple language in a calm, confident manner. Every time the discussion took a twist, she brought it back to the idea that the president's plans were for the good of the American people. As the day went on, Karoline answered a question about a new executive order that had been signed that morning. A reporter asked how this order would be enforced in schools around the world. The topic was a bit tricky, and people wondered if it would lead to discrimination. Karoline explained very simply that the order meant young girls would not have to share locker rooms with boys if the boys had a natural physical advantage. Her words were careful and clear. There was no extra argument, just a plain statement of the policy. Shortly after that, another question came about media funding again. Some reporters mentioned that there were hints that a well-known news website was receiving taxpayer money. Karoline said that the Department of Justice was working on stopping these payments. She said the government would no longer allow money to be wasted on things that did not serve the American people. Her tone was firm and direct. Later in the press session, a lighter moment emerged. A reporter joked about a famous comedian who had once criticized the president in a funny way. Karoline simply said that the president had even invited that comedian to one of his events, though she did not know for sure if the comedian would come. The humor in her answer brought a small smile to the room, and some people even chuckled. It was a reminder that even in a serious discussion, there could be moments of fun and lightness. Before the session ended, Karoline faced one more question about the role of a big business leader, Elon Musk, in the government's plans. A reporter said that Musk was a special government employee because of his company's many contracts. Karoline answered by saying that Elon Musk is not in it for the money. He only cares about big dreams, like making space travel normal and making the government spend less. She noted that Musk had even lost a lot of money to help the president's campaign, which showed he was serious about his ideas. Her answer was simple: if someone is truly successful, they are not driven by money alone. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. At the end of the day, the press briefing felt like a long conversation. It was not just about the tough questions or the big numbers. It was about a new way of talking about politics, a way that used plain words and a steady voice to explain big ideas. Karoline's approach was different from what many reporters expected. Instead of being angry or overly complex, she used simple language. Her answers were clear and meant to show that every plan had a reason. She talked about spending, about keeping America safe and free, about dealing with problems at home and abroad, and even about the future of sports and education. In every answer, Karoline reminded everyone that the president was working for the American people. He wanted to make sure that government money was spent wisely, that people were safe, and that America stayed strong. As the day came to an end, Karoline left the stage with a quiet smile. She had answered many questions with simple, clear words. The reporters continued to talk among themselves, thinking about the big ideas they had just heard. Some were still skeptical, and some were inspired. But one thing was clear. Karoline had changed the tone of the day. She made a strong case for a new way of doing things, a way that was honest, clear, and always focused on the people. Now, if you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This story shows how a new approach to a difficult day can be told in plain, simple language. From a room full of buzzing reporters to a calm and clear message from Karoline, every moment was a chance to change the conversation. The ideas about immigration, rebuilding Gaza, protecting sports, and saving taxpayer money were all part of one big plan. Even when big questions came up, Karoline answered them in a way that everyone could understand. Her calm voice and simple words made the complex world of politics seem a little less scary and a little more real. The day was long and the questions were hard, but the message was always the same. Make sure that the government works for the people. With every answer, Karoline helped paint a picture of future where every decision was made with the American people in mind. From talking about new policies to making jokes about old ideas, she showed that there's a way to speak clearly, even about the hardest subjects. Before we finish, just one more time, like, comment, and subscribe.